Embracing the unknown is the first step to discovering the extraordinary within ourselves. Open your eyes, listen deeply, and let the truth reveal itself. Look beyond the surface and uncover the depths of your own potential. If you are new here, subscribe and then listen.
The Art of Being Dumb, a Tale. Inspired by Socrates, in a small modern town lived a curious man named Elias. To most people, Elias seemed odd. He asked too many questions, rarely gave answers, and often responded to even the simplest things with a humble "I don't know." Many thought he was a bit slow, perhaps harmless, but undeniably dumb. What people didn't realize was that Elias had been a professor of philosophy. Disillusioned by the ego games of intellectual circles, he left academia and chose instead to walk the streets of his town, learning not from books or institutions, but from people. One day, a sharp young executive named Maya, fresh from business school, noticed Elias quietly observing a heated town council debate. She walked up and smirked. "You look confused. You probably don't understand what's going on." Elias smiled gently. "Perhaps. Could you explain it to me?" Maya launched into an explanation, her voice growing confident. But with each of Elias's simple questions, "Why do you think that's true?" or "How do you know that will work?" Maya grew flustered. Her answers, so solid at first, began to unravel. A small crowd gathered. Some laughed at Maya's struggle. Others started asking Elias questions of their own. By the end of the hour, what began as mockery turned into a forum. Elias hadn't given a single lecture, he just kept asking, listening, and letting others discover their own blind spots. Later, a local teacher who'd watched the exchange approached Elias and asked, "Why do you pretend to be dumb when you clearly see more than the rest of us?" Elias looked up at the clouds and replied, "Socrates once said, 'I know that I know nothing. To be thought-wise is a trap. But to know that you are ignorant, that is freedom.' The art of being dumb is not stupidity, it is strategy. It disarms pride and opens the door to truth." And with that, Elias wandered off, asking a child why the sky is blue, not to correct her answer, but to learn how she thought. The Art of Being Dumb, Part 2, The Echo of Wisdom. As Elias strolled away from the gathering, the town slowly returned to its rhythms. But something had shifted. A few people started questioning their routines, their assumptions. A shopkeeper wondered if he was overcharging for necessities. A council member reread a policy proposal, unsure if she'd really understood it before endorsing it. Elias had planted quiet seeds the way only a truly dumb man could. Days passed, then weeks. Elias became a kind of town ghost, appearing at bus stops, cafes, and markets. He never preached, he asked, always with the same gentle tone and that maddening phrase, "I don't know." One afternoon, Maya, the young executive, found herself unable to shake the memory of their first encounter. She had prided herself on intelligence, confidence, strategy, but something about Elias haunted her. Why had his questions shaken her more than any business exam? She found him again, this time by the riverside, watching ducks. "I've been thinking," she said, sitting beside him. He glanced at her, amused. "Dangerous thing to do. I thought you were mocking me that day." "But you weren't, were you?" Elias shrugged. "If I had mocked you, would it have changed your answers?" "No," she admitted. "Then what difference would it make?" She fell silent. Then, "What's the point of pretending to be dumb?" Elias looked out at the water. "When people think you're smart, they protect their egos. They posture, defend, and argue. But when they think you're dumb, they speak freely. And in that freedom, truth leaks out. Truth likes low places, not high pedestals." She frowned. "But isn't that dishonest? Not if you genuinely don't assume you're right. Ignorance isn't a costume, it's a doorway. The wisest questions come from those who don't think they already know." Something clicked in Maya's mind, not as a revelation, but like a pebble dropped in deep water. The ripples would take time. Months passed. A shift began in the town, subtle, quiet, patient. People started forming evening circles in the park where debates, storytelling, and deep questions flowed. They called it dumb talk. Elias never led. He only sat at the edge, listening, occasionally tossing out questions like breadcrumbs. One night, a teenager stood up and said, "Everyone always told me to act smart. But Elias showed me it's okay to ask stupid questions. Now I finally understand things for myself." The crowd murmured in agreement. Elias said nothing. He just smiled, Maya, now a leader in the town council, often invoked his style. She no longer led with certainty, but with inquiry, and strangely, she found that people trusted her more when she admitted what she didn't know. Years later, when Elias passed away, the townspeople carved his epitaph on a stone by the riverbank. The Art of Being Dumb. Part 3. Legacy of the Quiet Flame. Years after Elias's death, his memory became more than a whisper. It became a way of thinking. The park where the dumb talk circles began was renamed Elias Grove. Every week, people of all ages still gathered there not to be taught but to explore. No one claimed authority. Children questioned elders. Elders listened. Even visitors from other towns came, curious about this strange place where not knowing was treated with honor. Maya, now in her 40s, wore her silvering hair proudly. As mayor, she governed unlike any leader before her. Her policies were shaped by community questions, not assumptions. She kept a stone on her desk that read, "Ask first, understand second, decide last." It was a gift from Elias, carved years before he passed. But Maya had a new concern. In a world speeding toward answers, instant news, AI decisions, shortcut thinking, she feared the art of asking. The art of being dumb would be drowned out. Children now grew up in a society that measured intelligence, in how quickly one could respond, not how deeply one could listen. So she created something new, the School of Not Knowing. It was a strange school. There were no grades, no standard tests. Every child, upon enrollment, was given a single assignment. Ask a question no one knows the answer to and explore it for a year. One student, Lila, asked, "Why do people lie even when they don't have to?" Another, Jameer, asked, "Can trees feel loneliness?" Their teachers didn't correct or redirect. They joined the questions, exploring alongside the students. Critics mocked the school at first. "It's a temple for ignorance," one article sneered. But when former students started becoming thinkers, artists, scientists, and diplomats known for their insight and humility, the tune began to change. Maya knew then that Elias's fire hadn't gone out. It had become a quiet flame inside thousands of minds, burning not with the heat of pride, but with the warmth of wonder. On the anniversary of Elias's passing, Maya returned to the riverbank. The stone was weathered now. Moss crept along the edges. She knelt down, placed her hand on it, and whispered, "You were never dumb. You were the wisest soul we ever met, and now the world is learning to ask again." As the river flowed gently past, the wind seemed to carry a soft reply. "I still don't know. The art of being. Dumb, the question that remains." Years turned to decades. The town that had once laughed at Elias was now known across countries as the Listening City. Scholars came not to lecture, but to ask. Politicians visited not to campaign, but to learn. And people, ordinary people, spoke with the kind of quiet confidence that only comes from embracing uncertainty. The School of Not Knowing expanded into a global movement. New cities adopted its model. Universities built unlearning labs where experts had to explore topics outside their domain from the perspective of a curious child. It was strange and humbling, and it worked. But for all the growth, for all the change, there was something sacred that never shifted. It was the stone. Elias's stone by the river remained untouched, save by time and touch. People would still kneel before it, not to pray, but to remember. Some came to grieve, some to think, some to whisper their own unanswerable questions into the wind, as if hoping Elias might still be listening. One spring morning, a girl named Aya, just 10 years old, stood by the stone with her grandfather, who had once known Elias. She asked, "Grandpa, do you think he ever really didn't know things? Or was it all just a trick?" The old man smiled. "That's a good question. What do you think?" Aya thought for a moment. "I think maybe knowing you're dumb is the smartest thing in the world." Her grandfather laughed softly, wiping a tear from his eye. And as they walked away, hand in hand, the river kept flowing quiet, persistent, full of questions, just like Elias. The end.